What is the Waqf Board and why has it been in the news lately? वक्फ एक्ट की चर्चा का पहला कारण है कि इस एक्ट की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनैलिटी को सुप्रीम कोर्ट में चैलेंज किया गया है, और दूसरा कारण है कि तमिलनाडु वक्फ बोर्ड ने रिसेंटली एक पूरे गांव को वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी घोषित किया है। इस गांव में एक 1500 साल पुराना मंदिर भी इंक्लूडेड है और उस मंदिर को भी वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी घोषित किया गया है। बट व्हाट इज इवन मोर सरप्राइजिंग इज दैट नो वन इन द गांव एक्चुअली न्यू कि ये गांव वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी है। ये बात सामने तब आई जब गांव का एक निवासी अपनी जमीन बेचकर सेल रजिस्टर करवाने गया और रजिस्ट्रार ने कहा कि उसे जमीन बेचने से पहले वक्फ बोर्ड से एनओसी लेनी पड़ेगी। एंड इवेंचुअली पता लगा कि सिर्फ उसकी ही जमीन नहीं, गांव के सभी निवासियों की जमीन पर वक्फ बोर्ड ने कब्जा कर लिया था। द प्लॉट थिकेंड फर्दर व्हेन इट वाज फाउंड दैट इट वाज नॉट ओनली दैट विलेज बट 6 other Hindu majority villages as well that had been designated as Waqf property. So how could something like this happen? Now before you pass judgment like this is a Hindutva conspiracy or you're trying to attack Muslims, please, I assure you, I'm doing no such thing. All this information is publicly available and I have provided my sources in the description. Feel free to verify them. Also, this video is not aimed or targeted at any particular community. Preservation of public property from ecclesiastical institutions is an issue of national importance that needs to be discussed seriously and in a balanced manner. And that's what this video aims to do. So let's begin with वक्फ क्या होता है। In simple words, मुस्लिम लॉ में वक्फ का मतलब है प्रॉपर्टी को हमेशा के लिए इस्लामिक चैरिटी में दान कर देना। It is the permanent dedication of movable or immovable property by any person for any purpose recognized as pious, religious or charitable under Muslim law. वक्फ एक्ट ने यही डेफिनेशन सेक्शन 2 क्लॉज R में अपनाई है। In Islamic law, वक्फ property is permanently dedicated to Allah and once property is dedicated as waqf, it remains as waqf forever. It is irrevocable, inalienable and perpetual. So to manage these properties and to ensure that they are being truly used for purposes which are considered religious and charitable under Islam, the government of India has enacted the Waqf Act. इस एक्ट के अंदर सरकार ने एक सेंट्रल वक्फ काउंसिल और एक स्टेट वक्फ बोर्ड एस्टैब्लिश किया है। These two bodies are responsible for the overall administration and supervision of waqf properties. Then there's also a chief executive officer who is subordinate to the state waqf board but is also responsible for ensuring the proper management of waqf property. And the act lays down in detail the powers, functions and duties of these different functionaries. अब सवाल उठता है कि वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी होती क्या है और ये प्रॉपर्टी वक्फ बोर्ड अक्वायर कैसे करता है। Now strangely enough, वक्फ एक्ट में प्रॉपर्टी के मैनेजमेंट के प्रोविजंस हैं, but the act doesn't specifically say how a property can be dedicated as waqf property or how it can be acquired by the waqf board. All the act says is that to create a valid waqf, there should be a dedication of the property. Dedication should be for a purpose considered religious or charitable under Islamic law, and the dedication has to be permanent. But through various judgments, we've been able to gauge how a property becomes waqf property. Now this happens either by a specific deed or an instrument in writing, or it can be deemed a waqf property, meaning that it is presumed to be a waqf property without any written instrument being required for it to be considered as such. So for example, Supreme Court का एक judgment है सैयद मोहम्मद सलीम लबई वर्सेस मोहम्मद हनीफा, जहां सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है कि किसी भी प्रॉपर्टी को वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी बनने के लिए जरूरी नहीं है कि कोई प्रॉपर्टी के पेपर जाकर वक्फ बोर्ड को पकड़ाए। अगर उस प्रॉपर्टी पे मुस्लिम्स को अजान और इकमा के साथ नमाज पढ़ने की परमिशन दी गई है तो वो अपने आप वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी बन जाती है। And if a mosque is in existence at that property for a very long time, then the court will infer that the dedication is complete and that the property no longer belongs to the actual owner of the land. By the way, this was also the same judgment cited by the mosque committee in the Gyanvapi dispute to argue that the Gyanvapi mosque is waqf property because there was a mosque erected on it. Another way for a property to be made waqf property is if the waqf board acquires that property by conducting a survey. So section 4 of the Waqf Act contemplates a surveyor to be appointed in each state to conduct a survey of the total waqf property in that state, and the state government bears the cost of this survey. एक बार survey complete हो जाती है तो survey report state government को दे दी जाती है। State government वो report वक्फ बोर्ड को देती है। The Waqf Board then approves that list and forwards it back to the state government, और state government उस report को official gazette में छाप देती है। अब अगर इस report में कुछ ऐसी properties included हैं जो वक्फ properties नहीं हैं, या अगर कोई dispute खड़ा हो जाता है regarding whether or not a particular property is waqf property or not, ये dispute वक्फ ट्रिब्यूनल के पास जाता है। लेकिन अगर लिस्ट को पब्लिश हुए 1 साल से ज्यादा समय बीत जाता है, उसके बाद लिस्ट में इंक्लूडेड प्रॉपर्टीज चैलेंज नहीं हो सकती, वो हमेशा के लिए वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी बन जाती है, and they are also registered as such by the state waqf board. The only contingent being that where it is made by a person who's not even interested in the property, the waqf board has to send a notice to the person who is actually administering the property, intimating him कि आपकी प्रॉपर्टी वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी बनने वाली है, and if you have any objections, the Waqf Board will hear them. अब इस एक्ट को क्रिटिसाइज क्यों किया गया है? पहला रीजन है कि इंडिया में किसी भी रिलीजियस कम्युनिटी के पास अपनी प्रॉपर्टी डिस्प्यूट्स डिसाइड करने का राइट नहीं है. So let's say the church has a property dispute with a private citizen. The dispute has to be argued before an ordinary civil court. There's no separate ecclesial tribunal established to deal with such disputes. Similarly, अगर हिंदूज की बात करें तो उनकी परिस्थितियां तो और भी गई गुजरी हैं. At least the church can own property. Mandirs in India are under state control and are not even allowed to manage their own property. And all their property, whether in cash or immovable property, is effectively held by the Indian government. तो जाहिर सी बात है, लोग क्रिटिसाइज तो करेंगे ही कि अलग अलग रिलीजन्स के लिए अलग अलग लॉस क्यों हैं. अगर सभी रिलीजियस कम्युनिटीज इक्वल हैं एंड इफ यू आर ट्रूली अ सेक्युलर स्टेट, व्हाई इज इट दैट बेनिफिट्स दैट आर गिवन टू वन रिलीजियस कम्युनिटी आर नॉट एक्सटेंडेड टू अदर्स? सेकेंडली, experts have also criticized the Waqf as acting like a parallel government and wielding excessive power. So if you go through the Waqf Act, you might see that many of the provisions are similar to the powers given to organs of the state. So for example, not only does Section 83 of the Act provide for a separate tribunal for disputes relating to the Waqf, but also Section 85 bars jurisdiction of the civil court. Theoretically, the Waqf tribunal is only supposed to adjudicate disputes between the Mutawali and the Waqif, or those persons whose property has been donated as Waqf. It isn't supposed to bind non-Muslims at all. And the main role of the Waqf Board is just to ensure management of the property. But lately, the Waqf Board has on many occasions misused the provisions of the Act to acquire property wrongfully. Such as in the case of the Tamil Nadu Waqf Board, where the board has acquired 7 Hindu majority villages, including a 1500-year-old temple. Moreover, the surveys of Waqf property under the Act are paid for by the government. And the survey commissioner and the members of the Waqf Board are also deemed to be public servants under Section 21 of the Indian Penal Code. While the salaries of the employees are paid from the revenues generated from Waqf properties, no other religious communities' clerics receive similar powers and benefits. Thirdly, the Waqf Act has also received criticism for allowing acquisition of property even where the same may not have been donated to the board. तो जैसा कि हमने पहले देखा, Waqf Act के तहत स्टेट की वक्फ प्रॉपर्टीज की सर्वे के बाद एक लिस्ट पब्लिश होती है where the listed properties are declared as वक्फ प्रॉपर्टीज. अब इस लिस्ट को सिर्फ 1 साल के अंदर अंदर चैलेंज किया जा सकता है, वो भी वक्फ ट्रिब्यूनल के सामने, सिविल कोर्ट्स के सामने नहीं. जनरली प्रॉपर्टी डिस्प्यूट्स में लिमिटेशन हमेशा 12 साल की होती है एज प्रिस्क्राइब्ड अंडर द लिमिटेशन एक्ट. दिस मीन्स कि अगर आपकी प्रॉपर्टी किसी ने जबरदस्ती हड़प ली है तो आपके पास उसके पोजेशन को चैलेंज करने के लिए 12 साल हैं. लेकिन अगर वक्फ बोर्ड ने आपकी प्रॉपर्टी पर कब्जा किया है, this is reduced to a measly 1 year. Moreover, many people have also claimed that a majority of the Waqf Board's properties today have been acquired by them and have not been donated to them. So it is difficult to gauge how much of this property has been deemed to be Waqf property by using illegitimate means. Now, these criticisms also raise important questions on the constitutionality of the Act. And in fact, the Act has been challenged before the Delhi High Court by BJP leader Ashwani Kumar Upadhyay, who also recently approached the Supreme Court seeking the transfer of these matters from the Delhi High Court to the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court seemed unconvinced by his arguments. मैंने petition की कॉपी तो नहीं देखी, but apparently petition में वक्फ एक्ट के खिलाफ एक ऑब्जेक्शन था कि वक्फ बोर्ड के सारे मेंबर्स मुस्लिम्स हैं. सुप्रीम कोर्ट के ऑनरेबल जस्टिस जोसेफ ने कहा कि हिंदू एंडाउमेंट के लॉज भी तो यही कहते हैं कि एंडाउमेंट बोर्ड्स के मेंबर्स भी हिंदू हों. Honorable Justice Joseph also dispelled all arguments on the ground that because the members of the Waqf Board are Muslims, they will decide in favor of the Waqf Board. He went on to say, and I quote, "I must be speaking for myself. I must express my complete shock that if you say that we have a tribunal and if a judicial member is appointed, that man will decide on the basis of religion." Mr. Ranjit Kumar, are you really saying this? Are we going to go by religion? But these are merely oral and preliminary remarks that the court has made in passing, and they don't actually reflect on the verdict of the court. The matter has been posted for October 10th, and I suppose we will see what happens then. So what do you make of the Waqf Act and the criticism against it? Let us know in the comments below.